This is lock number 38 on the historic Ohio and Erie Canal in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. I'm Darren, and this is the Industrial Revolution. Canal locks are an essential part of any canal. Unless you're building a sea level canal, you have to be able to move your boats up over the top of hills and back down. Go down into valleys and back up the other side. And locks are how you do that. It's one of the most expensive parts of building a canal. It's one of the hardest parts of building a canal, but it's also a completely essential part to building a canal. This one at the moment is actually empty, and that gives us an opportunity to take a look at some of the stuff that's normally underwater or in historic locks completely missing. So let's take a look. Well, as we pull into the canal, you can see a few things. First, this looks like it's a concrete canal lock, although that's a bit deceiving. If you look down more towards the bottom, you'll see it's actually sandstone. This is part of a revision made to the locks along the Ohio and Erie Canal. Originally, well, some of the early ones were wood, but originally they were mostly sandstone, and later this was capped with concrete. If you look down towards the water line, you'll see not only where you have the original sandstone below the low water point for the lock, but you'll see the upper areas of the concrete is heavily eroded away too. It gives a pretty good idea of what the operating water level was at the time. Looking at the downstream locks, which are closed right now, those locks you can see are closed at the moment. And actually I was talking to one of the National Park Service maintenance people a few minutes ago. They're trying to get them to work again, and right now they're not able to open these locks or the wicket gates. The huge wooden gates are called whalers. The whalers close against each other and hold back the water. They come in pairs and they point upstream. The water pressure from upstream forces them closed, and unless the top and bottom water level are the same, you cannot open a whaler gate. To the side of the whaler gate, you have this long balance beam. This serves a couple of purposes. One, it gives you really good leverage, so you can actually have one person push these gates open. The other thing you get from the long beam is a counterweight that helps to also to open up and close these gates easier. Let's go back up to the other end of the canal where we have a bit more to look at. Heading up the river, heading up the canal, you're going to see that the upper gates are actually open right now. And since the upper gates are open, the water's flowing through. This section of the canal is drained at the moment, so there's not a whole lot to see in terms of water, but we do get to see the features here. Looking down at the bottom, and this part would always normally be underwater, you see the curved wall there. The curve actually produces an arch, increases strength. That comes up, and you have a triangular section here pointing upriver always, and you have the same thing on the lower lock gates, and it's hollow behind it. That triangular section, the large wooden whaler gates will close up against that section. That makes it impossible for the whaler gates to actually close too far. It means the whaler gates, if they don't happen to match perfectly when you're closing them, especially if you're closing only one at a time, the whaler gate will come up against that wall and stop. Beyond the whaler gates, beyond that wall, you see there's a stone sill. That sill catches most of the silt and stuff coming down the canal. You do have water flow. I mentioned this canal is actually turned off right now. They have the water inlets blocked, and all this water is still coming in. This water's leaking in. So you have the water leaking in from groundwater, from uphill over to the left. Every canal leaks, and you have to manage that water leakage. Let's go around and take one more look at a couple more things here. At the bottom left of the whaler gate, you see the wicket gate. The wicket gate is how you actually equalize water pressure in one of these locks. So this is an example of what a wicket gate looks like when it's not actually mounted in the whaler. Normally you can't see these because they're underwater. They're located at the very bottom of the whalers. So unless you have a lock that has enough drop that the upper gate comes out of the water, these are always underwater. And the way these work, unlike the whaler gates that close against the force of the water and you can't open them against the force of the water unless the water level is equal on both sides, these you see pivot in the center. And because it pivots in the center, the force of water on both sides is equal, and that means that, well, it's a little tough, you can actually open and close these while the water pressure is different, while the height is different. Now where that comes into play is, this is what lets you equalize your water pressure. So you bring your boat into the lock, you close the whaler gates, and you then open the wicket gates in the direction you want to go. If you're headed downstream, you'll open the wicket gates on the lower lock, on the lower whaler gates, and that'll let water out of the lock. If you're going upstream, you bring your boat in, you close the downstream gates, and you open these, the upper gates. Now once the water level's equal, you close these again, and these don't close completely watertight, but they don't have to. These locks leak all the time. And now you can move on your way. That connects up to a rod that right now just terminates in a square-topped metal post. That post, there's a wrench that fits on it, and that allows you to open and close the gate. Now the gates are hinged, of course, because you have to be able to rotate them. And here is the high-tech hinge. You have wrought iron straps. The strap goes around to the post here on the canal gate. And in this case, you see there's been some wear from operating this gate. So they've actually unstrapped the gate, added a bit of reinforcing wood, and put the strap back on. That significantly increases the life of the whaler gates. This is lock number 28 on the Ohio and Erie Canal, also known as the deep lock. You'll see all the same features you saw on the other locks, except you might notice it's a little bit deeper. In fact, this one's 14 feet deep. That's pretty unusual for a lock. 10 feet tended to be about the maximum. You could certainly move boats through a single deep lock faster than you could through a pair of shorter locks, but there were drawbacks. You moved a lot more water in a deep lock, and also once you hit about 10 feet, you started having a problem that water would actually spray down from the upper lock gate onto the passengers and the boat cargo. And that was certainly never an ideal situation. You have the same 4-foot clearance you have on every other lock on this canal. And really it's all the same structure, and you can see it all here. You get the same arched upper wall here. You get the same insets for the whaler gates. In this case, this lock has not been repaired. So with the drawbacks of a deeper lock, why did they build it here? Well, it's cheaper to build one lock than two, and it is faster. Still, the fact that there was no locks built deeper than this, and really most of them didn't even approach it, that should tell you everything you need to know about just how useful just how popular these deep locks were. So as we head back down this lock, let's look at some numbers for the locks. The lock, like all locks, was 90 feet long. It was 15 feet wide, and that meant that a canal boat that was 85 feet long and 14 and a half feet wide would just fit it. That was the maximum size of canal boat allowed. And if you're thinking 14 and a half feet wide and a 15-foot lock, that leaves 3 inches on each side. Yep. And apparently if you hit the sides, you got fined. The 85 feet, with a 90-foot lock, you'd think that was plenty of room. But remember, the lower end locks have to open inward. And with the lower end locks opening inward, that meant that your boat had to be a little pointy on that end so that the locks could swing by it safely. You really don't want the locks hitting the boat, you don't want the boat hitting the locks, and you really don't want to hit the whalers, because if you damage the whaler, you break the lock and you get free-flowing water through it. Maximum cargo load on this canal ran around 30 to 50 tons. So I'm here at Lock 44 on the Miami and Erie Canal in Providence Metro Park. You can see a canal boat headed my way, being pulled by 2 mules.
Yeah, but they were fishing on the wrong side though, these guys were. They didn't know where the holes are.
Look back at the boat, we can see he's trying to pull off the shore there and get lined up on the lock. One thing you really didn't want to do is actually hit the lock itself. Also notice these poles in the ground, and the rope is going around those. And he's going to lift the rope up over the top of that here in a bit. It's to keep the rope from impacting the lock itself. And so here's our 14-foot wide boat going into our 15-foot wide lock. Gives them 6 inches on each side if it gets perfectly centered. Be careful because the tow rope's being pulled under me right now, so I have to let that get past. The mules go up and they get ready to hook on later. So he's hooked the rope around here. That's to brake, so that they don't go through the upper whaler gates.
You're looking at it like you never seen it. Now there's another little gate that's underneath the water now. Okay?
See, they are closing the whaler gates now. They don't close easy, but since they're fairly well counterweighted with that long beam, they're not as hard as you would think, even though they're pushing at least 4 feet of water on the bottom. And those wicket gates are already closed. Now they'll move up to the front, and this is the upriver side. They'll open the wicket gates. It's done by pushing these long metal rods. And that brings water in. You see just how quick this is coming up. This one is part way up. Neither set of whaler gates would open. You just pulled the tow rope around, so once they get through the lock, they can reconnect that.
By the way, sir, this goes free, but that ain't no shame. Hey, last time it happened to me, I'm gonna be straight, keep it out of my nose. It was pretty intense.
You can see that hook on the front. It's straining hard against this rope. This rope's secured and preventing it from going into the upper lock. And as soon as they get it close enough to the same level, they'll put their weight into those upper gates, and they'll push the whaler gates open, which will solidly equalize that pressure. And you see they're going to close the wicket gates at this point as well. That way when the boat comes back down, they don't have to worry about it. They're already closed. The whalers recess nicely into those notches on the sides.
We're doing now, okay down there, Captain Jonathan? Give me a thumbs up if we're doing good. That's what I like to see.
I'm just securing the wicket gates, make sure those are solid. There's a little bit of eddies, they're pushing that back to get those securely up there into their notches so the boat doesn't hit it. Remember, the boats only have about 6 inches on each side. They can actually do as little as 3 inches on a side. See just how close this is on the sides.
We're gonna pull you on out and hook up to Miss Sally and Miss Molly.
You just call me a mule?
No, now wait a minute. That's not the way I mean it now.
How do you mean it?
What I mean to say is that you work just as hard as a mule, if not harder. And I tell you what, I would like to give you a compliment, sir. Not only do you work as hard as a mule,
You can see this boat
you smell just
actually being pulled up to speed, pulled through with just 2 people pulling it through the canal. So that's the huge advantage of running a canal boat versus running a horse-drawn cart. They're hooked back on to the mule up front. Yeah, this canal boat could hold maybe 50 tons of cargo, and a horse-drawn cart could hold maybe 1 ton of cargo. So obviously, big advantage, moving a lot more cargo here. Just pushing off the wall up there at the front again. back on tow. And at this point, the boat is on its way up the canal onto the next lock. This lock's one of the few places you can actually come and see not only a fully restored 19th century lock with water, but also a replica canal boat, mule drawn, and actually come here and ride it through the lock. Locks like this allowed canal boats to move freely throughout the world. And without them, it's doubtful the Industrial Revolution would have ever taken off the way it did. And that's why this is the Industrial Revolution. Before you go, I do need some help. The easiest thing you can do to help is simply like the video, also subscribe and hit notify. That goes a long ways towards telling YouTube, hey, these videos are worth watching, the channel's good, and it'll show it to more people. More people I have come in, bigger the channel grows. Also, if you can comment or participate over in the discussion tabs, that also goes a long ways towards helping with the video stats. It shows YouTube that people are actually participating and getting involved. I have a Patreon page at patreon.com/industrialrevolution if you want to help out there as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you at the next one.